Before I start, I want to ask you to subscribe to my channel if you love real, raw stories about love, betrayal, and life's hardest lessons. And after you hear this one, please share your thoughts in the comments. I really want to know how you'd react if this happened to you. It all began with a casual comment, one I wish I'd ignored, but instead, it set the stage for everything that came after. We were planning a dinner party, something small, intimate, just our closest friends. I was excited. I love hosting, love seeing people I care about together under one roof. My wife, however, seemed distracted. She kept checking her phone under the table, her thumbs moving too fast, too secretively. I brushed it off as stress or work messages. Then she said it, and it was like a knife twisting in my chest. Invite him anyway. I paused. Who? I asked cautiously. That one, she said, glancing at her phone. Then at me with that easy smile I used to trust. He's coming, so invite him anyway. I nodded, though unease prickled at my skin. Something in her tone felt off, too casual, too deliberate. But I went along. I sent the invite, trying to shake the gnawing doubt in my stomach. In the following days, small things began to stand out. Missed calls she couldn't explain. Texts she deleted almost immediately when I entered the room. The way she laughed at her phone, almost embarrassed, almost guilty. I questioned myself first. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe I was overthinking. But deep down, my gut refused to lie to me. The night of the dinner arrived. I cooked. I cleaned. I arranged everything to perfection. The doorbell rang, and I greeted the guests warmly, then froze when I saw him. The man my wife had insisted I invite anyway. But it wasn't just him. Standing behind, with a mix of shock and confusion on her face, was his wife. It hit me immediately, like cold water in my chest. I watched as the three of them entered, smiling politely, exchanging pleasantries. My wife's hand brushed against his arm too often, too casually. The little jokes, the glances, they were intimate in a way that made my stomach twist. And as the night went on, the tension built. I kept my smile, my voice even, but inside I was unraveling. After dinner, when everyone else had left, I finally spoke. I asked her directly, cautiously, painfully, "Are you involved with him?" Her eyes flickered, guilty but also defiant. "It's complicated," she admitted. "I didn't mean for it to happen this way, but it's over now. I swear." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to save what we had. But a voice inside me, the one I had tried to ignore, kept repeating every strange text, every late-night excuse, every moment that had felt off. I knew I couldn't. Not this time. So I made a decision. Quietly, calmly, I excused myself, went to my briefcase, and retrieved the papers I had prepared months ago, but had never wanted to use. Divorce papers. I had hoped I'd never have to. But now, holding them in my hands, I felt clarity I hadn't felt in weeks. I returned to the living room, where my wife and he were talking, laughing awkwardly. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "I think it's best if we take this conversation somewhere more private," I said. And then I did it. I handed the papers to her. The silence that followed was unbearable. His wife's eyes widened, his face went pale. My wife's hand trembled as she took them, her lips parting, no words coming out. It was a moment frozen in time, raw and real. No dramatics, no shouting, just the weight of betrayal laid bare. She tried to explain, to apologize, to justify. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "It just happened. I love you, but..." I stopped her. "Love doesn't feel like this," I said quietly. "It doesn't look like this. And it certainly doesn't make me feel like I'm invisible in my own life." For hours after, the house felt empty despite the lingering tension. Memories I had cherished, the quiet mornings, the laughter over coffee, the plans we had made, now felt like a lie. Every shared smile, every tender touch, seemed tainted by the knowledge that she had chosen someone else, at least in part, while we were supposed to be a team. I reflected on everything I had ignored, everything I had rationalized. The sneaky texts, the sudden interest in work trips, the way she talked about him in ways that felt too personal. I realized that betrayal doesn't always come as a dramatic confession. It comes in small gestures, in whispered excuses, in the little truths we choose to ignore until the evidence is undeniable. Walking away wasn't easy. It was painful, heartbreaking, and confusing. I loved her. I still do in some ways. But love isn't enough when trust is gone. The strongest decision I made that night wasn't giving her divorce papers. It was choosing to respect myself enough to leave. Weeks later, when the initial shock had worn off, I began to feel a quiet strength growing inside me. Pain teaches you things you never wanted to learn. About others, about yourself, about boundaries you cannot compromise. I began to rebuild, carefully one day at a time. I rediscovered the parts of me that had been overshadowed by betrayal and fear. That dinner party, the moment she whispered, the chaos of the papers on the table, it became a turning point. It wasn't a grand spectacle, but it was honest. And sometimes honesty hurts more than deception because it leaves no room for denial. If there's one thing I hope you take from this story, it's this. Betrayal doesn't always arrive with a dramatic confession or a loud argument. Sometimes it whispers through small actions and quiet choices. And the bravest thing you can do isn't revenge or confrontation. It's choosing yourself, even when it hurts.